Okay, well, the first stage of the painting is completely dry now, so I'm going to come in and work on the main animal, and I'm beginning by putting down some bursts of pure titanium white. So up until now, I've been using tinting white, which has a slight iridescence and is less opaque than the titanium white. So it's great for making subtle highlights, soft edges, translucent layers. But the titanium white is fantastic for really bright white highlights. Now the pure white I need to use rather sparingly to give it maximum impact throughout the painting. But a few bursts along the top of the sheep here is appropriate, I feel. And a little bit there on the head. And a little bit there on the head as well. Now next up, I'm just grabbing this little brush here. Oh, there we go. Couldn't work out why that wasn't on camera. This little filbert. And just grabbing the titanium white again. And a little bit of the cerulean blue. Just come in and refine the shape of the nose there. I'm going to blend that in a little bit to the still wet titanium white, just so that it's not too harsh a transition. Just managed to put my fingertip into the still wet paint there, so I'll just clean that off. So continuing with this pale blue. And then I'm adding just a touch more blue to that same mixture. And we'll use that on the legs of the animal. Now I'm using much less water in the mixture as well now. So this technique that I've used here today, or for this painting, is similar to the technique I use when I'm painting portraits. And so there are some videos of my portrait painting on the channel if you're interested. But the technique I use is to basically go in with, generally speaking anyway, is to go in with fluid layers and using the tinting white, lots of water content, visible brush strokes within large patches of paint, and then when that's dry, I'll then come in with controlled little marks of highlights and shadow with the tinting white. So I'm applying that same technique but to animals and landscapes now. One of my favourite techniques, actually. I really enjoy doing it. Okay, so that's worked reasonably well, I feel. So a little bit more of the cerulean blue, a little bit of the ultramarine going in now, and a little bit of burnt umber, and as you can see, I can use this colour for some shadowy areas on the legs, and then we can continue with that to begin to put some shadows in on and around the head. And there's not a huge amount of blue on, this particular sheet in terms of the fleece, but I just added a couple of touches there, just as like a little experiment to see how it would look. I'm fairly happy with those little touches I've added. While I was chatting away for that last sentence or so, I've just been adding even more of the burnt umber to the mixture. So we'll come in and add some shadow onto the belly there. Now the deepest shadow on the belly needs to be quite a lot darker, but again, it's all about just sort of working your way towards where you want to go. No need to rush and do it all in one move unless you particularly want to. All right, let's go even more burnt umber and even more ultramarine blue. I'm mixing that in with what's left on my brush, so it's not going to be too dark is my hope, but hopefully it's still going to have a little bit of power as a shadowy colour. Just getting a little bit more water into the mix for this next move. So using the brush edge on, just want some slightly narrower brush marks. Okay, next I'm going to this little 1/2" flat, grabbing some of the cad yellow, a little touch of the cad red, and it's a fairly fluid mix this time, but I'm just going to lightly layer that over the top of some of the shadowy area and the underside, or beginnings of the underside of the belly there. Now, the colour of the sheep is not as orange as that, but I personally quite like the way that orange is working on the painting. Now, that's not to say I won't subdue areas of that orange in a moment, but for now, I'm fairly content with that orange. Similar approach here. Again, yeah, the sheep isn't this orange, but no reason we can't have a bit of fun with the colours. Now, there are also some very subtle hints of purple in the photo I'm looking at. So I'm going to grab some cerulean blue and a touch of the red. And that's mixed in with some of the tinting white, actually, which was just left on the palette. So I'm not sure that's quite the right colour, but we'll give that a go. Let's see what we get if I... It's not quite what I had in mind, but it's not too bad.